that have ended quite successfully with a significant amount of rainfall, a significant amount of precipitation. He's one researcher. I know that there are a number of other people as well in Italy and in the United States also working in that area. And as far as the accumulator is concerned, even though, unfortunately, maybe one of the most important books written about the accumulator and its use is still only in German. It's called Heilen mit Orgonenergie, if any of you read German, by a doctor named Yorgos Kavoros, who lives in Germany. And he's been working regularly and steadily with the accumulator for probably close to 30 years now in a smallish, well, I'd say in a very, very small town in Germany, but a large practice. He has people coming to him from many parts of Europe, and he has a significant amount of success in treating a wide variety of conditions. And he works with another device that Reich is very closely related to the weather engineering devices called a medical doorbuster that also helps to heal various illness states. And I'm hoping his book will come out in an English translation this year. I think it's in the works. Besides Dr. Kavoros, there have been orgonomists in the United States over the years who I know have used these devices in their private practices or people in the privacy of their own homes. There's a medical director of a major psychiatric hospital in Switzerland, I believe, who's working with the accumulators now. A Dr. Stefan Mucinich, I believe, if I'm pronouncing his name right, also has been working with accumulators in Germany for quite a long time, as well as the Foucaults. I guess I'm naming all these names because I feel it's important for people to understand that even though Reich died and his books were burned and people in the United States are not necessarily pursuing aggressively these avenues of research, it is happening in other parts of the world, albeit not within the numbers that we'd like to see, but we're hoping that will change as people become more open to some of the ideas that Reich had brought forth. So I guess I just wanted to ask if there was anybody in the audience who doesn't know what an orgone accumulator is. I assume there must be some people. Everybody here knows? Oh, okay. I wasn't sure where to start when talking about this energy because it's, I didn't want to spend too much time on it if people are already very, very knowledgeable. But let me see if I can give you a good summary. Reich did believe that there was energy that was responsible for living functions. And by that, I could say in simplistic terms that function is a pulsatory function. And he came to these conclusions after evaluating bioelectric changes that were associated and the physical changes associated with the sexual orgasm. And he, out of his research with the sexual orgasm, believed that there was a transition of events, of a tension that is created by the erection of an organ, that mechanical tension that leads to electrical charge, which leads to electrical discharge and leads to mechanical relaxation, the conclusion of an orgasm. That those 4 steps would define a 4-beat formula that effectively describe the biological process of that pulsation entails. And so orgone energy, he conceived of as an energy that inherently pulsated, and that it had a tendency to have a strong attraction and relationship to water, and it had a tendency to organize itself as opposed to being entropic, which would be a tendency for disorganization, and that it had no mass, and that it was very closely related to electricity or magnetism or gravity, but in fact maybe could be thought of as a substrate upon which those phenomena take place. Many phenomena that one associates with static electricity as opposed to current electricity, he associated closely with orgone energy phenomena. And he wondered if cosmic rays were essential to understanding the nature of this energy. I just want to, I guess, point out the fact he died in 1957 in prison. So a lot of these ideas and his theoretical developments were occurring, well, throughout the 40s and into the early 50s. So there were, in some of these fields, there was maybe much less known, obviously, than there is today. He had developed a device called an accumulator that was composed of alternating layers of organic and metallic substances, and found that the energy from the atmosphere, it exists as an ether at large, penetrating all things, that the energy would tend to be absorbed by organic substances and attracted to and repelled or conducted along metallic. And if he created layers of alternating organic and metallic and organic and metallic and organic and metallic layers, and he put these layers in defining a space like a six-sided box, that he found that there would be a greater energetic tension inside that box than in the surrounding atmosphere. And so that's how the Orgone energy accumulator came to exist. And because of its strong relationship with water and humidity in the air, the tension within the accumulator will vary depending on the humidity in the atmosphere surrounding. It will have less energy on wet, humid days and have higher tension level on dry days. He found that he could measure different changes within the accumulator with a variety of tools. Maybe the most simple was simple thermometer experiments, that the temperature inside the accumulator would be higher in relationship to the atmosphere surrounding. But he also used electroscopes, which measure static electrical events, and Geiger counters to try to conduct a variety of experiments. He tried to do some of these experiments in vacuum states as well, so as to also isolate the energy from air, molecules that might be in the air, and he used Faraday cages also typically to isolate his experiments from electromagnetic interference. Let me see. So generally the accumulators had an exterior of maybe wood or plastic, and their interior layers would be made of metal. And they would have a variety of layers, number of layers in each one of the sides. So it'd be often a 3-sided, a 6-sided, a 10-sided, 10-layered, I'm sorry, 3-sided, 3-layered, 6-layered, 10-layered. The accumulators would be built in varying intensities of layering. And he also had a room on his property called an Orgone energy room, where the walls themselves were built with this layering, so he could conduct experiments in a very highly charged atmosphere. So maybe some of the books I think that are key to read if you want to find out more about the accumulators and Orgone energy are really the cancer biopathy and the function of the orgasm. In particular, the cancer biopathy has more extensive descriptions of the sets of experiments he conducted to come to some of his conclusions, and is considered by some who work with the accumulators themselves, so to speak, the Bible of Orgone accumulator use. But there are additional books, such as Cosmic Superimposition or Contact with Space. For that matter, there are many journal articles that he wrote that remain maybe only in the journal form, that are hard to get, but have additional information of all kinds. So all of that literature is extremely valuable. And as well, the research that has been done by different people in Orgonomy since his death that's been published by different organizations or different individuals who've been affiliated with Orgonomy. I hope on our website we have some of those titles listed in some of those journals. Well, I guess I realize that maybe my presentation or the details of Orgone energy maybe could be more detailed, but I also wanted to talk a little bit about where people are at right now, or where our world is at as far as research and work in energy is concerned. And I think things have changed considerably since Reich's lifetime, obviously. There have been a number of different theories that have been floated in the world of physics of different types of energy fields in an attempt to understand some of the phenomena that maybe Reich was observing. One of them is a zero-point energy field, is a concept that is actually relatively similar to concepts of orgone energy. It was actually developed by a Dutch scientist who was interested in colloidal development, which I think was kind of interesting to find. Somebody else who was interested in colloids, because Reich did a significant amount of work in colloid biology and physics, also ended up coming up with this concept that could be related to this energy, this sort of primordial mass-free energy. What energy, looking at energy beyond our atoms. I know that there are researchers now in the field of atomic force microscopy or nanotechnology. Maybe most of you are aware of the fact that there have been newer microscopes developed since about 89, that are capable of actually imaging the atoms on the surfaces of things. There's an important microscope developed called the scanning tunneling electron microscope and the atomic force microscope. Both of those microscopes are capable of, via computer image, doing very, very close research. And so there are many phenomena that have come to pass in the course of doing that research that scientists are now trying to understand and explain, such as much more activity in vacuums than ever was thought to be possible, or static electrical phenomena in outer space that used to be assumed couldn't exist, because it was always thought that space was a vacuum and there couldn't be static. I think these are all important things to know, that there's more opening in different fields of physics in that way. I know that there's some new research. Yeah.
There's a lady who keeps talking real loud, and it's really polite. I think it's hard for us to participate.
I'm sorry. Okay. That's okay. Maybe, sir, would you like to take a seat up front? Would you, please?
There's like 20 of us here.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's fair.
I don't, yeah. If anybody's having trouble hearing, though, please do just come forward. I'm sorry, just the best I think we could do right now would maybe to offer you a better seat.
No, it's just speaking in front of people.
No, I understand. So it's okay. It's okay. Well, I will try to speak up. Okay. Okay. I know that right now also there was some very interesting research I just came across on the internet where there's a scientist trying to study whether or not sound exists at the cellular level with the pulsation of the organelles in the cell, which are now actually visible, that are the little pieces within our cells themselves are pulsating at different frequencies. And that research is going on at UCLA. I think it's important to bring this up because I think I know when I was, this whole issue of pulsation and how does pulsation occur? Is there an energy specific to the pulsatory process? Pulsation doesn't seem to appear in things that are dead. It does seem to appear in things that are alive. In fact, many biologists assume that pulsation is needed for something to be living. And then you enter this discussion of gray zones of what is dead and what is alive, and are there things that are some sort of in-between state? Is it possible to have a transition between deadness and aliveness? Does that idea fly in the face of spontaneous generation? These are ideas that were popular, obviously popular even today. We're taught that the spontaneous generation doesn't occur. Yet in Reich's early research, he seemed to have the experience of seeing biological forms be generated spontaneously out of solutions of primordial sort of chemical mixtures that are heated to incandescence. Some of that work actually ended up being repeated in the 1960s, I believe. I can't remember the researchers who did it. I don't know if anybody could help me with that, because I remember learning about it in elementary school.